What is an actual good personal DNA service with actual privacy? Nebula.
Huh.
How about that? Yeah, but do we really want to feed the carbon fear hysteria? Whether you like it or not, it's there. And, I'm a capitalist. If it's there, I'm going to make money from it.
It's very honest answer.
Charles is copying VeChain. No, we're inspired by VeChain. VeChain is a very famous supply chain cryptocurrency with a very active community. Your mouse tweet. The stem cells is the juice. Actually, they were disrupting the epigenome, and the one that they disrupted the epigenome with badly damaged the mouse. And so the juice actually caused aging. So it wasn't the case that they were natural aging. They did one with accelerated aging, and the other one was the natural control. Who is this woman, and who is she? So
and who is she?
Tam, who is she? Is you?
I am me. I am Tam.
Why don't you talk a little bit about your background?
Oh my gosh, my background is quite varied. I started as a political scientist, so I've sort of always had this wanting to question the systems. So I did a specialist degree in political science, and then I realized the political system was a little too corrupt for me. I worked for the government for one day. I was very upset that they didn't actually do anything. They actually told me I was working too hard and that I needed to slow down because it was making them all look bad. And that was the moment. And again, I didn't get this from my parents. I don't know how I got this, but that was the moment I was like, well, this is not very efficient. So I just took a turn and I went into acting, believe it or not. I went into theater in New York, and I moved to New York and studied that. And I recommend acting to folks it's like therapy. It turns you inside out and you learn a lot of stuff about you. And then I became an audio engineer. And then I went to work in the Middle East.
By the way, when she said she went into acting briefly, she was actually in Hollywood movies like Boyhood and Tree of Life, Ethan Hawke's Girlfriend, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I got into the movies, and they wanted me to keep
Has
going.
An IMDb profile.
Yeah, but I didn't like the films because it was like it's like play acting. You're acting like it's playtime, and I didn't want to have playtime for the rest of my life. And I just thought it was very strange to act like somebody else for the rest of my life because my life was so much more interesting. Then I became an audio engineer, which I love. That's probably my biggest passion, extracurricularly, is audio engineering. So I became an audio engineer for a while, and then I moved to the Middle East, and I helped build an architecture firm. So in the middle of Qatar, I helped build an architecture firm out there. And then I went to law school and I got into crypto. I got into crypto very early on. That's where Charles and I met. We met in a long time ago. So before Ethereum even launched, that's where I met Charles. I was there in Toronto, and that's when it all just kind of made sense for me. I always tell the story of there was a Bitcoin ATM. I had my phone. I had my Bitcoin wallet. That was one of the first wallets. If nobody knows what a Bitcoin wallet is, I have no idea how to get into that, by the way, now. But that password is long gone. I put the thing in, the QR code, my $20, and then I got my first Bitcoin. So honestly, it was at that point in time, I just knew. I saw sort of the future and where it was all going. I was around Vitalik at the time and all these guys. That's when I met Charles and just kind of went into the blockchain space.
So yeah, what do you do for IO?
Full gear. What do I do for IO? I am the president of IO.
What's that mean?
It is a glorified role. It means I'm like the mini CEO. So Charles tells people what to do, and I'm under him actually making sure that what he does is implemented. That was half a joke. So I started as culture officer in a company. Culture is very important. It touches all aspects of the business. And then I moved into HR because we needed to grow our company on the people side. So I was the HR director for a while. People are everything in a company. And then I moved into becoming the chief of staff, actually, which is the coolest job ever. And then we were doing a big company transformation, and we're working with some consultants. And they recommended that I actually transition into the president. And the president, all the executives report to me. I report to Charles. And I just sort of work with the COO and run the day-to-day business of IO.
And that's what frees me up to be able to work on 6 companies at the same time.
Yeah.
So I take a more strategic role and only occasionally get involved on execution operations where and when it makes sense. For example, I'm still heavily involved on the Cardano side, still heavily involved in new product development like Midnight, but then a lot of other ongoing concerns can actually be done through the normal C-suite. So you have this beautiful delegation inside the system, and it's actually starting to work really well. There's still a lot of bugs in it and kinks in it, and we're learning.
Oh, it's amazing
as
now.
we go.
So I'm trying to build
fun.
one of the most amazing companies in the world that is agile, that does ecosystem product development, that has culture at its heart. So we really actually actively, intuitively foster culture, and whatever that means. I mean, there's so many different parts of culture. And so this transition this year is just finishing a lot of our products. A lot of people don't know how many products we have, but we have a ton of products that we're actually working on day to day. So this year is really about finishing all those products. As a lot of you guys know, we're spinning out companies as well. So I'm responsible for spinning out those companies and making sure that they have the right management, the right leadership, and inherit the right DNA from parent co. So it's a hub and spoke model. And then just kind of see what they don't need to inherit, and then continuously improve and optimize the entire system. So I see the constellation of IO as the hub and its subsidiaries sort of as an ecosystem itself, where you're constantly improving the ecosystem. The hub is sort of like the leader or the enabler of the rest of them, and you're continuously improving all of your kind of related entities, because each entity that we have, and some are wholly owned, some are partially owned, some are JVs.
Yeah, like the bioluminescent plant is
Yeah.
a joint venture between us and the Colossal guys.
Yeah. So the cool part is that you actually have to, I love this stuff. Like I love thinking around governance period, but governance of a corporate system. So the cool part is you have to really think about incentives as well. Like, how do you get these different companies to work with each other as well? How do you incentivize them? And you can't impose anything on somebody. You have to incentivize productive behavior. So I think a lot about incentives and how this entire orbit, or we're calling it the orbit model, how this entire orbit and constellation of companies works together. And that's what I'm doing. So I'm working with Charles. I was actually working on the strategy right before we got on here. So I'm helping
to
write.
Well, we did the Roxiva.
Oh yes, we did that. And then I was working on the corporate strategy for the company. And yeah, I love building companies. I love this. I went to law school, and my parents were very sad that I didn't become a lawyer, but this is.
Well, you graduated.
I definitely graduated, but this is way more fun than just being a lawyer, because I still get to actually be immersed. And I'm sure somebody will have regulatory questions here, but it's still very interesting sort of watching, dealing with corporate law, employment law, regulatory law as well.
Well, I'm glad you are who doing well.
I am who doing well. The cool part is too that Charles doesn't really like tell me what to do. I'm pretty independent when I work, but we work really well together. Like he's more of the strategist on certain product and visionary stuff, and then I'm more of the execution implementer with my own ideas. Actually, yeah,
it's the only way you can make it work, because if you're scaling up 700 people, 70 plus countries, dealing with multiple different business domains, you have to be able to delegate effectively.